If you're over 60, these 5 everyday habits, things you might be doing without even thinking, could silently raise your risk of a stroke while you sleep. No chest pain, no warning sign. One moment you feel normal, the next your arm won't lift, your words slur, or you can't get out of bed. As a brain doctor, I've seen this happen again and again, not just to people with bad diets or smoking histories, but to smart, cautious seniors who were simply following what they thought were harmless routines. But here's the terrifying truth. A stroke can be triggered by what time you go to bed, how much water you drink, what you watch before sleep, and even whether or not you eat in the morning. These aren't extreme behaviors. They're common habits. And that's exactly what makes them so dangerous. In this video, I'll walk you through 5 silent brain dangers hiding in your daily routine, and the small changes that could save your memory, your mobility, or your life. If you care about your brain or someone you love, watch until the end. What you learned today could protect you tonight. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. 1. Going to bed. After 11 p.m., not just fatigue, but a silent stroke trigger. As a brain doctor, I've learned something terrifying. Going to bed late, especially after 11 p.m., can quietly set the stage for a stroke while you sleep. Not tomorrow, not next week, that very night. No chest pain, no slurred speech before it happens. Just silence. And then, in an instant, your life changes. We often think of sleep as rest, but for your brain, especially after 60, it's also a time of critical repair and regulation. During the early hours of deep sleep, your blood pressure should naturally drop, your heart rate should slow, your arteries should relax, and your brain should clear toxins. But when you stay up late, scrolling, watching TV, worrying, you disrupt that entire process. The result? Your nervous system stays switched on, cortisol levels stay high, blood pressure remains elevated, and the arteries in your brain never get a break. Combine that with natural age-related stiffness in your vessels, and you've created a perfect storm. It forms blood clots, quietly, inside arteries that no longer expand and contract like they once did. Let me tell you about one of my patients, Mr. Richard Myers, 72, a retired Air Force mechanic from Nevada. He was active, sharp, and full of life. But he had one habit. He went to bed every night around 1 a.m. He said it was his me time. A few weeks ago, his wife found him slumped over in bed one morning, unable to speak, with his right side completely paralyzed. He had suffered a massive stroke in his sleep. No warning signs, no medical history, just the silent price of a lifestyle that seemed harmless. When we ran his labs and imaging, we found severely narrowed brain vessels and tiny blood clots, likely forming in the hours he stayed awake under artificial light, stimulated, dehydrated, and under mild stress. His brain was working overtime while his body was begging for rest. The truth is this: after age 60, your brain becomes far more sensitive to sleep rhythm disruptions. Staying awake past 11 p.m. doesn't just make you tired, it makes your vascular system unstable. It raises your stroke risk overnight while you're lying in bed thinking you're safe. And here's the part that most seniors are never told. Your risk of stroke is highest between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. That's when blood pressure naturally rises. And if your brain has been under strain all night, that surge can trigger a clot to block a fragile artery. Mr. Myers is recovering, but he'll never drive again. He now struggles to button his shirt, and he told me last week, tears in his eyes. Doc, I thought staying up late was harmless. I didn't know I was gambling with my life. So tonight, when the clock strikes 10:30, don't see it as bedtime. See it as brain protection. Because what you do before bed could either give you rest or rob you of everything you value most. But if that habit surprised you, wait until you hear what happens when you avoid drinking water at night. It's not just about bathroom trips. It could make your blood thick enough to kill you in your sleep. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now let's move on to point number 2. 2. Avoiding water at night. You keep your bladder dry, but your blood turns deadly. If you're over 60, chances are you've trained yourself to stop drinking water in the evening. Maybe you've done it for years, afraid of waking up to go to the bathroom, tripping in the dark, or disturbing your spouse's sleep. On the surface, it makes sense, but inside your body, that safe habit could quietly be building up to something far more dangerous, a stroke, triggered by nothing more than thickened blood while you sleep. As a brain doctor, I wish more seniors knew this. Your body doesn't stop functioning at night. It still breathes, still sweats, still loses fluid. And after 60, your ability to conserve water drops significantly. That means even a slight level of nighttime dehydration can have serious consequences. Not just dry mouth, but thick, sticky blood that moves slower through your arteries. And when blood flow slows down, it forms clots. Tiny, silent clots. The kind that don't cause pain until they travel to the brain and block a vessel. I treated Mrs. Eleanor Chambers, age 78, a retired elementary school teacher from Indiana. She was healthy, active in her church, and careful about everything: diet, sleep, medications. But she had one rule: no water after 7 p.m. I don't want to fall in the bathroom. One morning, she didn't come down for breakfast. Her daughter found her confused, barely able to speak. She'd suffered what we call a lacunar stroke, a tiny blockage deep in the brain caused by microclots. Her blood work showed it clearly. Dehydration induced hemoconcentration. In plain terms, her blood got too thick overnight, and one clot made it to her brain. She survived, but her speech was never the same. She told me a week later, "Doctor, I skipped a sip of water, and I lost half of my words." The heartbreaking truth: this happens more than people realize, and it's preventable. The key isn't flooding yourself with water, it's staying gently hydrated before sleep. Just 4 to 6 ounces of room temperature water 30 minutes before bed can make the difference. It keeps your blood flowing. It keeps your brain safe. The price of avoiding water at night may not just be a dry mouth. It may be your ability to walk, speak, or even survive the night. But if you think dehydration is scary, wait until you hear what happens when your mind refuses to rest before bed. Because the next habit doesn't just raise blood pressure, it breaks the most fragile vessels in your brain. 3. Going to bed stressed. When your worries turn into silent brain damage. Most seniors I meet believe strokes happen because of cholesterol, sugar, or bad genes. But sometimes the thing that breaks your brain isn't in your bloodstream, it's in your mind. The stress you carry with you to bed, the worries you think are just part of life, could be quietly turning into blood clots as you sleep. Your brain doesn't have an off switch. When you go to bed anxious, thinking about bills, your children, your health, the news, your nervous system stays active. That means your blood pressure doesn't drop like it should. Your heart keeps working harder. Your blood vessels stay tense,
And in someone over 60, those vessels are no longer flexible or forgiving. Many are already narrowed by time, hardened by inflammation. And here's what few seniors know. When stress lingers through the night, it triggers surges of adrenaline, even while you're lying still. That creates the perfect environment for clot formation, inside fragile arteries that are already barely open. I'll never forget Mr. Harold Easton, 74, a retired police officer from upstate New York. He carried himself like a soldier, calm on the outside, but inside, he was always thinking, always carrying the weight of his family's problems. "I don't want to burden anyone," he told me once. He never shared that he was lying awake for hours, worrying about his son's divorce, his rising property taxes, and whether he'd live long enough to see his grandkids graduate. Then one night, around 3 a.m., he got up to use the bathroom and collapsed. His wife called 911. By the time he got to me, a clot had already blocked his left middle cerebral artery, one of the most critical blood highways in the brain. He survived, but he now walks with a brace and speaks with a stutter. When we reviewed everything, there was no smoking, no diabetes, no high cholesterol, just years of unspoken mental stress that hardened his arteries and thickened his blood until one night it all snapped. He told me, "I never screamed, I just kept it all in, and it broke me." After 60, your brain needs peace just as much as it needs sleep, because emotional stress doesn't just age your heart. It destabilizes the most delicate capillaries in your brain. It inflames the lining of your vessels. It increases platelet stickiness. And yes, it forms blood clots. If you go to bed without calming your mind, you're letting pressure build in silence. And the price you pay may be your speech, your mobility, or even your independence. So tonight, before you close your eyes, ask yourself, did I give my brain a chance to rest? Or did I carry all my fears under the covers with me? But what if I told you, even if you do everything right emotionally, there's still one habit that can silently damage your brain from the outside in? Because the next danger hides behind a bright screen, and it's something you might be holding in your hand right now. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 4. 4. Using screens in the dark. When blue light disrupts the brain's safety switch. Every night, millions of older adults lie in bed, holding a glowing screen just inches from their face, reading emails, checking Facebook, or watching videos to wind down. But what most don't realize is that this small habit could quietly be rewiring their brain, straining their heart, and triggering a stroke while they sleep. Your brain follows something called the circadian rhythm, a built-in clock that regulates sleep, hormones, blood pressure, and even how your blood flows. When the sun goes down, your brain naturally releases melatonin, a hormone that lowers blood pressure and helps vessels relax. This is what protects your heart and brain at night. But here's the danger. Blue light from phones, tablets, and TVs suppresses melatonin, especially when used in the dark. That means your blood vessels stay tense, your heart keeps working hard, and your blood pressure doesn't drop the way it should during sleep. For seniors, this becomes a hidden threat. After 60, your vessels are more fragile, your arteries less flexible, and when blood pressure stays high through the night, it forms blood clots, the kind that can quietly lodge in the brain and rob you of speech, balance, or memory. I'll never forget Mrs. Valerie Hopkins, 76, a retired nurse from Michigan. She was sharp, loved to stay connected with her grandkids on FaceTime, and had a habit of watching health videos in bed with all the lights off. "I can't sleep without my iPad," she told me once. Then one morning, her husband found her sitting up in bed, eyes open, but unable to move her right side. She had suffered a posterior circulation stroke, a rare but devastating type that affects the base of the brain. Her scans showed signs of long-standing nocturnal hypertension, meaning her blood pressure never dropped at night. The culprit? Chronic late-night screen exposure. Her brain had been running on high alert for months while her body was lying still. The blue light blocked the rest she desperately needed, and her vessels finally gave way. Valerie now walks with assistance. She can't drive. She told me last month with tears in her eyes, "I just wanted to stay connected. I didn't know I was burning out my brain from the inside." If you're reading this on a phone or tablet in the dark, please take this moment seriously. Screens are not harmless at night. They confuse your brain, prevent recovery, and leave your blood vessels vulnerable. Seniors need deeper rest, not more stimulation. Try reading a paperback book. Listen to soft music. Use a warm light lamp instead of a screen. Give your brain the darkness it needs to repair itself because it can't fight clots when it's constantly on guard. And if that habit hit close to home, just wait. Because the next one may seem innocent, even healthy. But it's one of the most dangerous things you can do to your brain before bedtime. It's something many seniors skip, thinking it's harmless, but it starves the brain and sets the stage for collapse. 5. Skipping breakfast, the silent morning habit that starves your brain. We've been told breakfast is important, but for many seniors, it's the first thing they skip. Maybe you're not hungry. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you just want to keep your blood sugar down. But let me be painfully honest. When you skip breakfast in your 60s, 70s, or 80s, you're not just skipping a meal. You're starving your brain at its most vulnerable hour. After you wake up, your brain is running on fumes. It's gone 8 to 10 hours without fuel. And in older adults, that's dangerous. Your blood sugar is already low. Your vessels are drier. And your blood is more viscous, and especially if you didn't hydrate well during the night. Without breakfast, your brain is forced to work under pressure without enough glucose or oxygen. And what happens when an organ starves under pressure? It collapses. It forms clots. It seizes the first chance to shut down. I saw this happen to Mr. Jerome Wallace, 79, a retired high school math teacher from Georgia, a kind, disciplined man. He believed in intermittent fasting and swore by skipping breakfast to keep his body young. But one morning, after walking his dog, he suddenly felt dizzy and collapsed on his porch. His wife called 911. At the hospital, we found he had suffered a transient ischemic attack, a mini stroke caused by a temporary blockage in his brain's blood supply. His labs revealed low blood glucose, high blood pressure, and hemoconcentrated blood, meaning his blood had become too thick. With no food and no morning hydration, his vessels constricted, and a clot had silently formed. He recovered, thankfully, but the look in his eyes that day said it all. I thought skipping breakfast was discipline. I didn't know it was endangering my brain. Here's the truth. We never say enough. Your brain needs breakfast, not just calories, but stability. A simple, balanced morning meal helps regulate blood pressure, soften your vessels, and restore normal blood flow to your brain. It doesn't have to be heavy, but it has to exist. For seniors, a skipped breakfast can be the tipping point, especially after a dehydrated night, high nighttime blood pressure, or poor sleep. It all adds up. And when your brain finally sends out a distress signal, it's often too late. So next time you think, "I'll just have coffee," remember, caffeine constricts blood vessels even more. It doesn't nourish. It stresses a system already under strain.
If you've ever wondered why your mornings feel foggy, unstable, or even dangerous, look at what you're not giving your brain. Because when the brain is underfueled, it doesn't whisper, it shuts down. But now you're probably asking, if these habits are so risky, what should I be doing instead? What's the safest, most powerful way to protect my brain without depending on pills or supplements? Let's talk about what to eat, when to eat it, and how real food can quietly heal your brain starting tomorrow morning, bro.
6. What you should eat instead. Real food that protects the aging brain. After everything I've seen in my practice, the late nights, the dehydration, the anxiety, the screens, the skipped meals, one truth becomes painfully clear. Your brain is not asking for more pills. It's asking for real food. Because at this stage in life, it's not just about living longer, it's about staying sharp, independent, and connected to the people you love. What you eat, especially after 60, is no longer about counting calories. It's about fueling your brain so it doesn't break down when you least expect it. Stroke, cognitive decline, memory loss. They don't arrive out of nowhere. They are built, day by day, from what you put or don't put on your plate. Let me tell you about Mrs. Margaret Wilson, 73, a retired school principal from Arizona. She came to me with chronic dizziness, foggy thinking, and rising blood pressure despite taking her medications. When I looked at her lifestyle, I saw a familiar pattern: 6 different supplements, barely any real meals, and constant fatigue. So we did something radical. We cleared the clutter. One by one, she let go of the pills and powders. We built her day around real food. No diets, no gimmicks. Just simple, nourishing, brain-safe meals. Her breakfast: 1 boiled egg for protein, half an avocado for healthy fats, a slice of whole grain toast for slow, steady energy, a handful of blueberries, rich in brain-protecting polyphenols, a few walnuts, a glass of room temperature water. That was it. And within 3 weeks, her dizziness faded. Her blood pressure stabilized. She looked at me and said, "Doc, I thought I needed more supplements. Turns out, I just needed real food." Here's the science behind it. Leafy greens like spinach and kale give you folate and vitamin K, which protects small vessels in your brain. Fatty fish like salmon and sardines are packed with omega-3s, which reduce inflammation and prevent clot formation. Berries help clean up oxidative stress, which accelerates brain aging. Nuts, seeds, and whole grains keep your blood vessels flexible. And water, yes, water, keeps your blood flowing smoothly. Because when your brain is underfed or oversupplemented, it becomes unstable. It forms blood clots. It triggers inflammation. It loses resilience. But when it's fed what it recognizes, real, whole food, it heals. Quietly, powerfully, naturally. The real danger isn't in what you're eating. It's in what you're missing. So if you've ever felt overwhelmed by labels, confused by contradictory advice, or scared by all the pills, remember this: your plate can either protect your brain or push it toward the edge. But now that you know what the brain truly needs, there's still one final truth we haven't talked about. Because knowing what to eat is one thing, but understanding how to stay consistent may be what saves your brain in the long run.
Final wake-up call. Awareness is the most powerful medicine. After decades of caring for the aging brain, if there's one truth I've come to understand, it's this: strokes don't just happen. They're built silently, slowly, through everyday habits we ignore. You've now seen how the smallest things, Staying up late, skipping water, going to bed stressed, staring at a glowing screen, or missing breakfast can quietly prime your brain for disaster. Each one may seem harmless in the moment, but over time, they shape your blood pressure, your vessel health, your brain chemistry, and ultimately, your fate. You don't feel a blood clot forming. You don't hear your arteries stiffen. There's no alarm that tells you your brain is under stress. That's what makes these habits so dangerous. They take root quietly. And when they finally strike, it's your speech, your memory, your mobility, or your independence that gets taken. But here's what I need you to remember: you are not powerless. The brain, even in its later years, is incredibly resilient, but only when given the right conditions. You don't need expensive pills. You don't need extreme diets or miracle routines. What you need is consistency, clarity, and care. Eat real food. Sleep before your brain is exhausted. Let your nervous system exhale before bed. Hydrate your blood so it flows freely, not sluggish and sticky. Protect your brain like you would a fragile family treasure, because that's what it is. It holds every moment, every memory, every part of you that matters. I've watched too many good people lose themselves because no one warned them how easily things could go wrong or how simple the protection could be. I've also watched others reclaim their energy, their focus, their stability, not through fear, but through understanding. So let this be your moment of truth, because you're not too old, you're not too late, and you're certainly not alone. Your brain is still listening, and it's still waiting for you to choose wisely. Now ask yourself, what habit will you change tonight to give your brain a better tomorrow? These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.